primary keys. Why keys are important? Because they ensure that each record in the table is precisely identified. Each record in the table represents a unique instance of the table subject. They help establish and enforce various types of integrity. For example, keys help ensure that a table has unique records and that the fields you use to establish a relationship between a pair of tables contain matching values and they serve to establish table relationships. Quick review. Which field is the primary key field? Yeah, that's right. It's the actor ID. You can tell because it has a key symbol next to it. So, characteristics of a good primary key. It must contain unique values, prevents duplicate records. This is the most important point you need to know about primary keys. And it cannot contain null values, which makes sense because if you had two records with null values, in that record the primary keys would not be unique. Its value cannot cause a breach of the organization's security or privacy rules. A social security number would not be a suitable key. Usually, its value is not optional in whole or in part. If it is optional, then you could have null values, which violates a previous rule. It compromises a minimum number of fields necessary to define uniqueness. So, avoid complexity because it makes it difficult to work with. Its value must be uniquely and exclusively identifying each record in the table. Each value must exclusively identify the value of each field within a given record, and its value can be modified only in a rare or extreme cases. Here are some rules for establishing a primary key. Each table must have one and only one primary key. It does not necessarily mean that a key must be one field. It could be multiple fields. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Each primary key within the database must be unique. That means the name of the primary key is unique, but the value could be the same. For example, you could have a product key of one in the product table and a customer key of one in the customer table. So customer key one that's unique. So you don't have to come up with some weird numbering convention to ensure uniqueness. And no two tables should have the same primary key unless one of them is a subset table. And we'll cover that later on in this course. Which of these make good primary keys? Think about it. So employee ID, that's probably a good one. SID, that's probably good one as well. Registration number, those are probably good. Last name, there could be duplicates and people change their names, so that's not good. Phone number, they got recycled, so that's not good. Social security number, that's probably privacy rule prohibit its use, and not everyone has one. The vehicle identification number, sad to say, but criminals who steal cars kind of obliterate them, so that's not good. Every table has to have a primary key. However, it's possible for the primary key to be made up of multiple fields. Usually going to find that in something called a junction table. In this example, we have a students table, we have a classes table, and then we have a table that's going to join them together in a student classes table. And instead of having just one field as a primary key, we're going to have a combination of those two fields act as the primary key. When you do that, it's called composite primary key, and it's both a composite primary key and foreign key. So to uniquely identify a record in the student classes table, you will have to give both the student ID and the class ID. Okay, we've got all those different names for the middle table. I mean, these tables are really important. You're going to find out in the next couple of weeks. But there are all kinds of names for it. There's junction tables, linking tables, intersection table, bridge table, cross-reference table. I'm going to use junction table here. But you can see the CPK, that stands for composite primary key. Let's see, you're going to have the option when you design the table. Do you want to use a composite primary key? My advice to you is don't do that. Instead, just create a unique key. Let's call it student classes ID, and you control it as just a random number 1, 2, 3, 4, and just by doing that, you've created a unique record. It avoids a lot of complexity. I recommend it, however, it's your choice because it's your database. So here's some example. You can see the student ID is repeating multiple times as is the class ID, but the combination in the case of this is unique. So 1 and 101, 2, 101, 3, 101. So they're all unique. And in this case, we have to add another field because a student could take the same class multiple times, right? So you'd have to have a date if you have this composite primary key. You'd have to include the date to make it truly unique. So true or false? I'll give you the answer. It's pretty easy question. A primary key can be a multiple field composite key, and the answer is true, but it's going to be your choice. Do you want to have just one single field primary key or a multi-field primary key? I recommend single field. Okay, that is for this.